Quite the talent he is. Proper chatterbox yada. If you're keen, it'll be brilliant. Today, we're going to keep it simple. I'll bark out a basic command and you watch. Keen to know? He'll set your tail wagging. Does mine, hence why I'm backing him. Right then, Wookie here. Do take a seat, won't you? Give us your full attention while we listen to my pal, Yada.
Well, welcome back to the Shabuwah vlog. We're going to continue our basic series on Shabuwah. Shabuwah is the upcoming harvest. It is just a little over a month from now, May 22nd of this year. It will be the commencement date for the time of Israel's troubles, a time so horrific that 2 out of every 3 Jews, according to the prophets, is going to die. And from everything I can tell, they're not going to endure a fate worse than the rest of the world. Man's going to run amok. Going to be so many bad things happen over the next 7 years, as we're getting a foretaste with Rahab, the great betrayer, Donald Trump, Satan incarnate. Some people would call him the Antichrist. As President of the United States, it is going to be an exceedingly rough 7 years between now and the time of Yahweh's return with Dode. And so we are continuing to review this, recognizing that the prophecy in Yoel 2 began and then repeated a call to blow the shofar. The shofar is blown on Shabuwah. Shabuwah itself means sevens. It's positioned 7 years prior to the conclusion of the Moedim, which would be Chag, Sukkah, which would be Teruah, Kippurim, and Sukkah, the celebrations on September 23rd and 24th of 2033, and then October 2nd and 3rd of the same year, obviously, and then Sukkah, 5 days after Kippurim, on the 7th of October, running for 8 days, symbolizing 1,000-year restoration of the Eden experience. So we're going to pick up where we left off with our last broadcast, and we are in the 18th statement of the prophet Yoel. He has explained how there will be an absolute horrific war at this time, and that this war will commence likely on a Shabuwah. I think it won't be this next Shabuwah, a little over a month from now, but the Shabuwah about a year from now, based upon my reading of what Gabriel said to Daniel and recorded for our benefit. Also, I think that the pieces need to all put in place for this to occur. And this is a parallel prophecy between Yoel and Yeshaya. Between the two of them, they explain precisely how these troops maneuver from what appears to be Iran, a heavily mountainous country, at least one full country or more removed from Israel that can muster millions of troops, both armed civilians and military forces. And so it's pretty obvious that it is Iran based upon that comment. And we're also told specifically how they would go about avoiding the kind of carnage that a massive maneuvering force would have if they were running in tanks and they were in close formation, whereby they could be obliterated. Although let's just be realistic here. First of all, the prophet said it's going to happen. So it's going to happen. It just can calm down and relax and just realize it's going to happen. Second is that the prophet said that they're going to be very spread out, that no one was going to bump into another one. And that means that the standard means that either the United States or Israel, and Israel being on its own by this point, would have are going to be of no value. They can't use Apache helicopters. First, they have too few of them. And second of all, they're way too vulnerable to shoulder-mounted missiles, as we have seen in the attempted raid of Isfahan that turned out so badly with the downed helicopters. They downed an A-10 because it flies low as well. And so you're not going to use A-10s or Apache helicopters successfully in this format because they're too vulnerable to the Russian version of the Stinger missile or the Chinese version, take your pick. The second is that an F-35 and an F-15 is just not made for strafing. So the idea that you're going to put a F-35 at risk by making it a play like it's an A-10 is asinine, plus the fact that it's likely, based upon the scenario, that Iran, should they be the nation, or if it's Turkey, but I think it's Iran, they're going to use cluster munitions over the main fighter bases of Israel. They've already done so, and they would take out so many of them prior to this anyway. The primary tool that is used, the tools that are used against a marching military would be artillery, of which Israel doesn't have a lot of and has no chance of positioning anywhere near where it would have to be positioned for it to be effective. Second would be drone swarms. And while both Israel and the United States have drones, Israel has chosen the more expensive option of manned fighters, as has the United States, over drones. And Iran is a vastly more effective manufacturer and inventor of the drone swarm than is America. And so they just don't have that technology to use. And even if you did, if you're trying to attack individuals, not so much in vehicles, and there's millions of them and they're spread out, you're not going to be effective even with drone swarms. That kind of drone would be way too expensive, and it would take out one or two people at the max. So that's not an effective tool either, nor are missiles. So the way that they're presented by the prophets makes total sense as to how they would come in, and Israel would not have a defense for them. And by this time, Israel's on its own. So this is after, by the way, I should say that Yahweh's gone to great lengths to tell us that out of his great kindness, he has provided a strong voice, one who is reciting from his words to depict what the options are for his people, so that they're not left and abandoned, so that they know that there is an opportunity for salvation for them, so long as they so long as they return to God. So he will be envious. He's going to be zealous, having his passions and zealousy rise for exclusivity in the relationship that is aroused for his land. And he will show mercy and compassion by sparing his people and family. This is going to be such an onslaught, as I've said. Israel on its own will have no chance of stopping it, not even close. It's kind of like using their current mechanisms to go fight a battle where they're so outnumbered. In this case, it won't make any difference. They're not going to send tanks across into of any significant number into Syria without having all manner of, again, shoulder-mounted anti-tank weapons used against them. Even the Fakistinians have shown that and particularly the Lebanese, have shown that Israel's tank defenses are no match for the kinds of modern warfare techniques. So God's going to say, I'm tired of you raping and plundering and murdering my people. I'm tired of you pretending like this land is yours. I've heard Allahu Akbar way too many times. And so God's going to have his zealous passion for his land aroused, and he's going to spare his people. That is how this all ends. But it doesn't end that way after 7 years of torment. Provided the answer by responding. He said to the people of his family, please take note and pay attention. I am reaching out to you by sending to you that which is associated with the expansive growth related to the harvest of grain, to the freshly pressed and renewing wine, recently harvested and prepared for the heirs of the vineyard, and the glistening and brilliant oil from pressed olives, so that you will be abundantly satisfied with the fulfillment of all of this. God has said, should you survive this, if you're among those who survive it, I'm going to be there for you. I'm here to tell you that I'm going to support those who return to me in the end by responding to them, to my family. And I'm going to say that I'll pay attention to you once you start paying attention to me. And so to the rescue is going to be the harvested grain. Those are those who are of the covenant family devoted to working on Israel's behalf that were harvested on Shabuwah. They're going to be returned to support Israel, this remnant of Israel. The freshly pressed and renewing wine recently harvested and prepared for the heirs of the vineyard. That this speaking of wine, he's speaking there of the one who is covered in blood, the one who emerges from the wine vat. And that is the Adam of Parah. We're told that the man from Edom is explicitly donned in red, having emerged from the wine vat with Yashayah, and that he is going to be the one who renews Yisrael and returns their status as heirs. This takes place on Teruah. And the glistening and brilliant oil prepared of pressed olives, it's going to be an olive harvest gleaning on Teruah also, and those are going to come back empowered and ready to make a abundant contribution and satisfying all that needs to be done to fulfill all of this on behalf of Yisrael and Yahweh. And I will no longer allow you to ever again be taunted and insulted. Now, the only way for that to occur is for God to rid the world of Islam, Christianity, Judaism, and Marxism, as well as conspiracy and anti-Semitism. So I will no longer allow you to ever again be taunted and insulted along and among the foreigners and the nations. You should act to capitalize upon Shabuwah. That's some rather important advice, isn't it? You don't want any of this to happen to you? You want to be part of the solution? You should capitalize upon Shabuwah. It's a feast. It's a chag. Shabuwah is the promise of the Shabbat of sevens for you all to approach. It is a Bokurim, first fruits, Katsir harvest, which means that it was made possible by Dod's fulfillment of Chag Matzah, of Passover, unyeasted bread, and firstborn children. It's a Katsir harvest of Chittim, wheats, of mature and valued grains, known for projecting themselves by standing up prominently as a chag, as a celebration of the Eshif, of the ingathering, at the turning point at the end, all to change. We're now back in the Torah. This is Shemot, the names, Exodus 34:22. You want to have an understanding of what Shabuwah represents, where we're told through the prophet Yoel twice in blowing the shofar on behalf of this notification that there's going to be a terrible war and that it's going to be awful for Israel. And the Muslims are going to go crazy and they're going to invade Israel. And God has made it clear that his people are going to be spared by those who have been gleaned, those who have been harvested. They're going to come back to serve Israel. And those who are harvested on Shabuwah will do that very thing. So Yahweh has provided the answer for this. He said to the people and family, please take note, pay attention. I am reaching out to you by sending to you that which is associated with the expansive growth of the harvest of grain. And then he says here, you should act to capitalize on Shabuwah, the promise of the Shabbat. For you all to approach as a Bikurim, first fruits, Katsir, harvest of Chittim, of wheats, of standing grain, as a Chag, celebration of the Eshif, this ingathering, at the turning point at the end, to change. This is it. This is Shabuwah is the turning point. It's the beginning of the time of troubles. All of the experiences we've had up to this point, this is the fulcrum from which they go from, well, it's been rough on Israel to, you have no idea how bad it's going to get over this next 7 years. This is the fulcrum, the turning point at the end. So I want to turn now to what is reported in Yeshaya Isaiah. We're going to begin in the 62nd chapter. Speaking of this same grain, God says through his prophet, I will not allow your grain grown for the harvest to be given ever again to be consumed in a questionable way and processed destructively by your enemies, on the condition the children of the Nakar, the observant foreigner, choose to consume your freshly pressed and renewing wine, recently harvested and prepared for your inheritance of the vineyard, which they have labored with him. Now, pretty much parallel there with Yoel, wasn't it? We've got the harvest of grain. We've got the new wine prepared for the inheritance of the vineyard. We have a harvest, all parallel. So I'm not going to allow your grain to be grown to harvest to be given ever again to be consumed by in a questionable way and processed destructively. Well, do you know how Shabuwah was stolen? Are you aware of how Shabuwah was stolen? How it was taken and consumed in a questionable way and processed destructively by Israel's enemies? How did that occur? Who figured out that it occurred? When did you come to know that this occurred, if you are in the know? Hopefully there's many of you who are pecking away on your, well, let's comment, and I know the answer to that one. I know. Do you? There's only one of the 7 Moed Mikre that's acclaimed by Christianity, right? It's Shabuwah, which they renamed Pentecost, correct? They stole the prophecy in Yoel too, which they misapplied by 2,000 years. And they claimed it was for the birth of their church. It's Acts 2. It's foundational to the Christian religion. So Shabuwah was stolen. It was consumed in a questionable way. It was processed destructively. God is correct. He's actually pretty good at this prophecy stuff. I'd listen to him. And it was processed that way by the ultimate enemy of the Jewish people. It's Christians who turned Jews into demons, who dehumanized them, who abused them and robbed them because they accused Jews of killing their God. And this was essential for the new religion because they needed to steal all of the promises that God had made to the Jews. So if they came up with this elaborate scheme that their God was a man and that men could kill their Jews and those men were Jews, or the men could kill their God and those men were Jews, oh, well, then all you have to do is hate on the Jews and you can steal everything God said about them. Of course, that would make God a liar, but, religions aren't for thoughtful people anyway, so that's not a problem. But there is a solution. The very guy that explained that Luke stole Shabuwah and wrote a book about it called Twistianity, 5 volumes. And that fellow is called out and designated by Yahweh as the Nakar, the observant foreigner. It would take an observant foreigner to figure out what Israel should have figured out for itself 2,000 years ago, but they didn't. And they made no attempt to do so. So God authorized an observant foreigner, the Nakar, to do it. You'll find him in the Torah, should you be looking for him. There's a whole chapter of the Torah devoted to him and about him. He is the centerpiece of the dedication of the house for Yahweh's name and Chronicles. And he's featured prominently throughout the book of Yeshaya, Isaiah. So he's not going to allow the enemy of Israel, Christians, to steal the harvest of Shabuwah. So long as you are children of the Nakar, of the observant foreigner, and that you choose to consume what he is offering, your freshly pressed and renewing wine, recently harvested and prepared for your inheritance of the vineyard, which you have labored with him. You should, because, there's many of you who are laboring with me. And yet she did not discern or realize, even acknowledge that by contrast, I had given her new wine, symbolic of the inheritance, and olive oil. I increased her wealth, which she assigned to the Lord Baal. That now is Hosea 2:8, speaking of the same subject, isn't it? Therefore, when I return to restore, I will select, accept, grasp hold of, and receive my grain, which will be increasing and growing for having observed his banner at the proper time, along with my new wine as an inheritance, as part of all of this, and of his continuing witness to these appointed meetings. Then I will rescue and defend by delivering my wool and my linen, covering her nakedness and her vulnerabilities, as well as her imperfections, all for the benefit of this remaining remnant of Israel. That was Hosea 2:8 and 2:9. Same subject. And the land will respond with grain growing exponentially, becoming an heir by new wine, and the olive oil representing the spirit of enlightenment. And they will want to provide answers regarding that which is associated with Yisrael, the seeds that God has sown. Hosea 2:22. The metaphor is consistent. The metaphors are all aligned. Well, since this is so instructive, let's consider an additional prophetic statement regarding the interplay between these harvests of grain, of olives, in association with the inheritance provided by the new wine. One of the most interesting is found in the same chapter of Jeremiah, where the restoration of the covenant is foretold. Did you know that? It says, They will come and sing aloud and for joy in the heights of exultation of Zion, of these signs that are posted along the way. And they will have a joyful countenance as they travel en masse, becoming radiant to all that is good and beneficial, productive and pleasing of Yahweh, regarding the grain being increased and multiplied, and regarding becoming an heir by the new wine, regarding the olive oil representing the spirit of enlightenment, and over and upon the children of the flock, and at the beginning of the new day for those who seek, consider, and reflect, then their souls will come to exist like an abundantly watered garden, and they will not continually contribute to their dismay, to their distress and despair anymore. Excuse me. More paw nibbling by Asher. And by the way, Makar is listed in the midst of this, and it would be symbolic of the bull who's going to make such a contribution to their well-being at this time. That was Jeremiah 31:12. Rejoice over these favorable circumstances, children of Zion, of these signs posted along the way. Demonstrate a positive attitude with Yahweh, your God. No curmudgeons in Shamaim. For he has provided for you that which is associated with the autumn rains through a teacher who communicates what you need to know about the Torah to live, so that you can be right and thus vindicated. And he brought down for you an abundant shower of guidance and instruction about being gleaned and growing thereafter, as was intended in the beginning. Now, this is now a return to Yoel. The Yahweh is God. Joel 2:23. So what do you think he's talking about here? Do you know? I assume you carry with me listening. So after talking about the interjection of the voice of Yahweh, who is going to do so much to redeem God's people and bring them back home, help them change so that they can return to Yahweh, the prophet says, rejoice over these favorable circumstances, particularly you children of Zion, those who are the beneficiaries of what is posted on those signs up the ridge line between Dod's home and Yahweh's. Demonstrate a positive attitude. Be supportive with Yahweh, your God. For he has provided for you that which is associated with the autumn rains. This would be in the fall, wouldn't it? The end of this period. All through a teacher who communicates what you need to know about the Torah to live. Now, how did I get that definition? It's from Morieh. It is a compound of two words, ma, which is to ponder the implications of, and yara, the source from which teaching and guidance, instruction and directions flow. And therefore, Morieh means authorized, accurate, and informative instruction by pointing out and showing the directions so that you can be right and thus vindicated. This voice is going to share the Torah as if raining down on God's people at the end of these days. And so it is Yahweh who has made this possible, and he has brought down for you an abundant shower. Boy, we're going through right now the vlogs, and there's upwards of 1,000 of them. We have positioned the books. There's 25,000 pages of translations and commentary. I would say that's an abundant shower, wouldn't you? And this is moray again of guidance and instruction, of pouring out and pointing out what you should be contemplating regarding the Torah's teaching and directions, conveying as a teacher what you need to know to live, about being gleaned and growing thereafter, of being gathered together and finally harvested in the aftermath, from Ma to ponder the implications of Lakash, being gleaned in a final harvest, Teruah, as was intended in the beginning. God's plan, always been the same. We're just the first to understand it. Then he says the threshing floors will be filled with pure grain, symbolic of the most radiant children, winnowed and purified by the most brilliant sun, Bar. Remember how the Amma, the greatest of all women according to the proverb, Ashar, when she began to speak to her son, Dod, and she posed 3 statements to him, all asking him if he understood his role as a Bar, as the Bar, the most purified one, the most radiant of sons, the most brilliant son, the brightest of sun, the most favored son. So the threshing floors are going to be filled with purified and brilliant children. And the new wine of a fresh inheritance, sweeter and only brief fermentation, will overflow the presses and the vats, along with glistening olive oil, grain, wine, and olive oil. The 3 symbols of God's intent for his people, of the harvest. Grain being saved souls. Olive oil representing the influence of the Spirit and of light. And of course, that vineyard and the crushed grapes, that wine, filling the vat from which the man from Edom emerges, along with Yeshayah, bloody red, symbolizes both Pesach, Passover, and the sacrifice of the Adam of Parah and Teruah. And so God says, Shalem, I will reconcile and restore on your behalf the years which so quickly disappeared and were devoured. You know, there is this beginning of Yoel 2, which is blow the shofar. Tell my people what they need to know. Warn them, but also encourage them. And then there's this whole torrent of testimony on a war unlike any other war, of more belligerence than can even be imagined, certainly more than can be enumerated, and how they will overcome all manner of barricades. They will enter through the windows into homes like thieves. They'll be armed to the teeth. They will cover the mountains on the way into Israel as of a black flood. And there'll be nothing that the nation can do to stop them, requiring God to intervene. And then it transitions to God saying, I have compassion for my people, and so I'm going to provide a remedy. I'm going to have a voice that I will prepare to convey my words, reciting my testimony, explaining my testimony to you. And if you listen to him, you'll be spared. And now here, he is telling us that that man will explain the Torah. He will be like an autumn rain of Torah guidance and instructions and directions and teaching. And therein thereby he will reconcile and restore all of those years, 3,450 of them, that so quickly disappeared, that were devoured. You're back to being released from the crucibles of religious and political oppression, as if you were leaving Mitzrayim. But this time you're not going to be malcreants. You're going to get that time back. Then you shall eat and you'll be nourished. And you shall be overwhelmingly satisfied, radiating a clear and brilliant light, while cheering the name of Yahweh. That wasn't even possible until this series, reintroducing Yahweh's name. But now it is. Shem, Yahweh, your God, who for the benefit of this relationship has acted, because he will engage marvelously, wonderfully, and awesomely with you. God's going to return to you when you return to him. And this time it's going to be in such an overt manner. You're going to see his brilliant light. You're going to hear his booming voice. But this time you're not going to tell him to go away or that you never want to hear from him again. This time you're going to cry. Tears of joy, tears of anguish over what was lost, over what is gained. So never again will my people be humiliated. Never again will they be disrespected, which of course is why Yoel told us that Yahweh will incinerate the trash. He's going to obliterate all traces of religion, those religions who have humiliated and disrespected Jews, Christianity, Islam, and particularly Judaism, the mother of both Christianity and Islam. And of course, Marxism, all forms of conspiracy. And you will know, you will actually recognize and acknowledge, even understand at that moment, Yada, that I am in your midst, in the very core of Yisrael. This is Yahweh's return to Israel. It's a place he has not been for a very long time. Every bit of 3,000 years. He says, I am Yahweh. How would you know that if you eliminated his name? If you were among those who promote Christianity, Judaism, or Islam, where you've actually erased Yahweh's name from his own testimony, how would you know I am Yahweh, your God? And there is no other. No Jesus. There's no Allah. There's no Hashem. My family will never be disapproved or experience distress ever again throughout all time. Why? Because Yahweh is eliminating the religions and politics and conspiracies that demonize them. And he's returning us to the garden where those things do not exist. To this, I wrote a little poem. Hopefully it'll be turned back into a song. I'll share it with you. I'm not much of a poet, obviously. I'm a man of prose, not of poetry, not of rhyme. But I was inspired to do it, and, well, I guess it's my job to share what I'm inspired to write, isn't it? I hope you'll Indulge me and listen. I am Yahweh, and I am God. So why is my name outlawed? Hashem is such an ugly facade. Why remain so flawed with this nasty fraud? I offered you kinship, a loving relationship, a partnership, a special fellowship, and your retort was religious lip. My story is of grain, of olives and of wine. Why do you decline? Worse, wine. You could be mine, even before this deadline. Read the sign. Be fine, and by design. Yahweh is my name. To Israel I came. You denied my acclaim. You fled my flame. You erased my name. I told you everything you needed to know. Revelations to help you grow. My son sowed the seeds, don't you know? And yet you denied him with such a crushing blow. Your Messiah returns. Of course, he's been here before. Your guilt he bore. He opened the door. Of this and more I swore. It's all foretold in his Mizmor. Dode is my son, my chosen one. Your salvation he won. It's already done. A Savior as bright as the sun. From my anointed, do not run. He served as the Passover lamb, yet you don't seem to give a damn. He fulfilled the promise that I made to Abraham. He opened this door jam. So Yah was my name. To Israel I came. You denied my acclaim. You fled my flame. You erased my name. I have always loved you. I only wish you knew. You haven't a clue. Such nonsense you spew. So the final harvest, it's going to be few. The truth was not hidden. It's religion that's forbidden. And now that you are so war-ridden, please look at all that was written. Yahweh is my name. To Yisrael I came. You denied my acclaim. You fled my flame. You erased my name. When I was your God and Dode was your king, there was a different song to sing. To the Goyim, you did not cling. You were shielded from their sting. Isolated and hated, you are now battered. Your dreams are shattered. The nation is tattered. My words, they have not mattered. It's all here in the Mikra. There is no reason to have gone astray. They are the way. Join me on Shabuwah, I say. Yahweh, it's my name. To Yisrael I came, yet you denied my acclaim. You fled my flame. You erased my name. With Dode as your Messiah, as foretold in Isaiah, you were not a pariah. Have you read Jeremiah? Dode is his name. To Israel he came. You denied his acclaim. You robbed him of his fame. What a shame. Who served as the lamb? Whose blood is on that door jamb? Do you need a diagram? Do you even give a damn? Do you know the Son who was given? For what he has striven? Are you to be forgiven? What is your decision? Yes, it's Dode. That's his name. To Israel, he came. But you denied his acclaim. You robbed him of his fame. Have you no shame? This need not be the end of the story. You've been called to glory. To my covenant be a signatory. Of my Torah do query. It's time. What is mine is repliven. Let me remove your living, all on the basis of 7. Then I can bring you to heaven. Yes, Yahweh is my name. To Israel I came. Accept my acclaim. Embrace my flame. Reinstate my name. Then it will literally come to pass at that very moment, without hesitation, during the last days. Therefore, I will pour out my spirit upon all who hear and proclaim the message, as they will be inspired by the Spirit. Your sons and your daughters, as well as your elderly, will have their thoughts guided by divine revelations and be restored and empowered as a result. Your boys will become capable men, choosing to continually witness, observing, and considering these communications that come from God. It will. 2:28. And also upon the men who actually work, and upon those engaged in service to the family. In those days, I'm going to bestow my spirit. Yoel, Yahweh is God. Joel 2:29. Will you be among them? I will provide signs, presenting them in the heavens and here on earth. Blood and fire with columns of smoke. Yoel, Yahweh is God. Joel 2:30. If I'm going through this too quickly for you, I have good news. In the series we're calling Luminaries, I'm returning to Yoel, and we're going to dissect every word. I'm going to give you some riveting insights as to what is taking place here, but let me just explain this superficially to you. The sign of the blood, the fire and the smoke. Yeah, why don't you read Numbers 19? Come to appreciate the sacrifice of the Adam of Perah. Understand from Yeshayah that the Adam of Perah is the man from Edom. He's Obed Edom, is the one who works for mankind. And he's coming out of that wine vat dressed in red, covered in blood, bludgeoned to death by Rahab on the Temple Mount, for the benefit of this mortal remnant of Israel, to purge them of their guilt, in harmony with the prophecy of Numbers 5, the adulterous woman. The fire that is lit on this day shall be beneath his carcass, beneath his offering, ignited by God himself. And as the flames leap up to the heavens, the columns of smoke laden with ash, immersed in water from the Temple Mount, will purify and purge this mortal remnant of Israel. That is the sign, visible on heaven and earth, of the blood, the fire, and the columns of ash and smoke. The sun, of course, will become weaker and thus darker, somewhat obscured. And the moon will be blood. Doesn't say the moon will be bloody red, as I had so many times thought before. And we're going to examine what exactly is going to happen to the sun. But I think you'll be surprised by that as well, as to what God is saying here. He's not talking about atmospheric obscuration. He picked a very specific term to tell us what was going to happen to that which is represented by the sun, his son, at this time. And how that will be resolved as the moon is turned to blood. Is that orbiting satellite of the earth going to become blood instead of rock? No. Does it changing to a reddish color fulfill this prophecy? No, because it doesn't say that it's going to become Adamah. It says it's going to become Dam. The moon is symbolic of the Katan Mayor, who is the Adamah Parah. Going to become a bloody red pulp before the vitally important and awe-inspiring day of Yahweh's appearance. Yoel has witnessed, and he has reported what I have also seen, which is the fulfillment of Teruah. Then it will come to pass at that moment in time that all who receive the benefits of this relationship will call out to and summon, welcome and meet in the name of Yahweh. Not Jesus, not the Lord, not Hashem, not Allah. If you're going to be a beneficiary of all that Yahweh is going to offer through my sacrifice on this day, you want to receive the benefits of the relationship. And start practicing your summons, your proclamation, your desire to welcome and meet in the Shem, the name of Yahweh. Those who do will be spared. They will be delivered. They'll be protected from danger and saved from harm. Indeed, within the mountain and of the signs that are posted along the way, Har Zion, and in Jerusalem, there will be deliverance for a remnant. Just as Yahweh has promised. All of this horrible war that begins not long after the shofar is sounded for this Shabuwah, that is so devastating to Israel, that God himself must stop, whose only remedy is the voice that God has so kindly, compassionately provided to his people, so that you listen to him, you benefit from him, you will be spared, along with those who are part of the harvest that he has coordinated and cultivated, will return to nurture and support you. Recognizing that the final remnant of Yisrael is all gathered now in Jerusalem, around Mount Zion and Mount Moriah, all beneficiaries of the blood, the fire, and the ash, all purged of their religiosity, all now delivered from harm's way, all because of what Yahweh has done in collaboration with this bull, this bloody red man of the earth. And among the survivors within this remnant are those benefiting from the relationship who Yahweh has invited and welcomed. The vast majority of those who will be the beneficiaries of the Teruah sacrifice of the man from Edom will have been brought into Jerusalem on the evening of Teruah, the 23rd going into the 24th of September. They will all be gathered around and positioned around the Temple Mount. And all of these things will transpire before them and for them. Look and see, because indeed in those days and during this particular time, for the benefit of the relationship, I will return to restore the fortunes, the freedom, and the prosperity of Yehudah. Well, for that to happen, Jews are going to have to become Yehudim again, aren't they? Yahud. It's a compound word. Yah and Ud. Yahud. Yah was beloved. And of Jerusalem, the source of teaching and guidance on reconciliation. Then I will collect and assemble all of the Gentiles and bring them down to the valley of Jehoshaphat. Whether you want to call it a place or it's a placeholder, the name says it all. Yahweh means Yahweh. Shaphat means decides and judges. A valley is a deep depression. And I will enter into judgment against them, Shaphat. There and on behalf of my people and my inheritance, Yisrael. For anybody that's stupid enough to say that no one knows how to pronounce God's name or it's not pronounced Yahweh. How come you know that it's the valley of Jehoshaphat? And you know Shaphat means to judge. Therefore, it's Yahweh, isn't it? It's obvious. Read and recite this against the Goyim. Be set apart and prepared to engage in battle. Alert and arouse the most valiant, the most accomplished leaders and battle-hardened fighters, the Gaborim, the best and the brightest among you. Approach and rise up, every man who is able and equipped to fight. What Yoel is saying here, this is 3:9, is that while Yahweh is going to incinerate the foes of Israel, before he does so, he wants you to show some goddamn initiative. Shed your dependence on the IDF. Walk away from your religious affiliations and political parties. Rise up. Take a stand. If you're equipped to fight, engage in this battle for the very survival of this remnant. Make a contribution so that you begin earning God's trust after squandering it for the last 3,400 years. Beat your plowshares into swords and your pruning hooks into lances. Let the weak and disabled say, I am a capable fighter, an honorable leader. Doesn't say, I am meek, I am humble, I am afflicted, I am a piece of crap. Does it? What's God looking for now? He is looking for those who are willing to take a stand, to fight, to lead, to demonstrate strength, to show that they've been empowered. They can accomplish what needs to be done. They can influence the situation. Provide assistance without hesitation. Then come, all of you Gentiles from all around. You assemble right here. Yahweh, bring down your Gabor, your most prominent leader and your devoted fighter. And he will. Yahweh's Gabor. He's Dode. The Messiah, the King, the chosen one. Israel's Savior, past, present, and future. Extend the reaping sickle because of the harvest, and it's ripe. Wait till I get into the etymology of these words for you and our upcoming review as we proceed through what now is, is an entire volume on the luminaries. She don't mean what you think it means. Much deeper than this. Return and be included to demonstrate your dominion, because the winepress is full. It's filled. The mission has been completed. The man from Edom whom Yahweh endorses as the final Zeroah, who treads on that wine vat with him, who saves a great many, he will succeed at the end, because Himalay, he finishes what needs to be fulfilled. The vats have reached their ideal capacity, because the consequence of them being wrong is great. And there are so many of them who are immoral and miserable. But we will achieve the full capacity of God's intent. Vast multitudes of uproarious and confused people making an intolerable racket will be in deep depression, judged, condemned, punished. For indeed, the day of Yahweh is approaching. In the valley and the deep depression of the verdict determining the sentence for those whose guilt has been assessed. Yahweh, that's Joel 3:14. Yahweh roars from Zion, from the signs posted along the way. He offers his voice from Jerusalem, the source of teaching and guidance on reconciliation. The atmosphere trembles and shakes along with the earth, while Yahweh provides protection and shelter for his family, along with a safe situation for the children of Israel. All of this transpiring in the most amazing day of days, Teruah, in September of 2033, 7 years from now. Therefore, you should know that indeed I am Yahweh, not Hashem, not Jesus, not the Lord, not Allah. I am Yahweh, your God. Your God lives. He remains and he resides in Zion now, and my set-apart mountain, among those signs posted along the way. Then Jerusalem, this source of teaching and guidance on reconciliation, shall be apart and special, no longer common, no longer religious or political. Unauthorized and illegitimate strangers will never pass through it again. Yoel 3:17. And this, of course, brings us to a whole nother set of prophecies. Ones that we will dive into tomorrow. We're going to jump into Yirmiyah, the 5th chapter. Same subject, speaking of the long arm and effect of Shabuwah and what it will herald come Teruah on behalf of this remnant of Yisrael after this long 7-year ordeal of Israel's troubles. It's a lot to process. And I promise we'll be going through it again as we review the Luminary series, which we have just begun, fortunately. I think we have just done 2 of those programs, and we will continue with them tomorrow. I thank you for listening. Good night.
Hey there, thanks for tuning in. That was Fetch. Gotta run now. Catch y'all on our next podcast.